Jesus. You were good. Who betrayed Jesus? Judas. Okay, so good job. You guys know a lot about the apostles. We did on our New Testament cards, but you can also say all of them. Okay, good job. All right, let's do our 10 Commandments. Okay. No other God before me. No carved images to bow down and serve. Don't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. No murder, no adultery, and you shall not steal. Don't lie against your neighbor or covet what is his. These are the 10 Commandments. He turned water to blood, frogs and mice. Don't forget those dirty old flies. Aaron killed the cattle, bulls and down. Locusts covered the ground till the darkness fell. Pharaoh pronounced the death of the firstborn. All right, who can tell me one of the 10 plagues? What's one of the 10 plagues?
He turned water to blood.
He turned water to blood. That's a good one. Tell me one of the 10 plagues. Locust. What's another one of the 10 plagues? Lice. Yes, the firstborn died. That's right. So we can sing these songs, but you guys also know the facts of them. So good job. We'll do more next time, okay? All right. We go around and do all 10 of them over and over. That'd be good. All right. There are 5 acts of worship. There are 5. There are 5 acts of worship. There are 5. Prayer, singing, praying, preaching, Lord's Supper, giving. There are 5 acts of worship. There are 5. There are 5 acts of worship. There are 5. There are 5 acts of worship. There are 5. There's singing, praying, preaching, Lord's Supper, giving. There are 5 acts of worship. There are 5. All right, let's give out our coins. I got a good number of them tonight. I had 4 that memorized the prayer of salvation. Okay? Bella Sanders. Noah Hornsby. Darren Ross Sanders. And Baylor Sanders. All right, then I have 2 that did the New Testament characters. All right. You know who gets one of these? Who gets this one? Miles Branham. Good job. And then, let's see. Nope. Okay. Well, I gave it away. Benjamin did it. Okay. We'll give that to him next week. All right. All right. Let's do our final questions. Ready? What is true success in life?
Living your life and going to heaven when this life is over.
What is true failure in life?
Living your life and going to hell when this life is over.
All right, let's say them all together, okay? Remember that right is always right, wrong is always wrong. It's never right to do wrong, and it's never wrong to do right. And that's right because the Bible is right. What's God's plan for marriage? One man for one woman for life.
is Napoleon. Napoleon is a police officer that's out there protecting us in the evening, in the morning. Just put a face with him. Those of you who haven't seen Napoleon, he's been with the city for 19 years, and I know he's very comfortable right now, just standing here awkwardly in front of everybody. He likes this. Just to put a face with it, Napoleon is a great guy. He's been with, like I say, been with the city for 19 years. We do appreciate all that he does, and just want to tell you thank you for all you do. You are appreciated.
Good evening, everyone. A couple months ago, we were asked to do a presentation on safety and security, and Brian and I did that. That was generally focused on between these walls, things that happen inside this building. We were asked tonight to talk about safety and security on a little bit broader scale, and specifically with technology in mind. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to look at how technology, how there's specific vulnerabilities that we as maybe as Christians are maybe even more vulnerable than other people are when it comes to technology. I think for the most part, we could be set up for failure in some ways when it comes to technology. I look around here and I see 150 people that I know want what's best for me. I know they want what's best for me in my life here on earth and my life after this. Technology isn't that way. I see people that I can trust with my Bible studies. I can trust with my life. Technology doesn't see that. We generally are more trusting people. We as Christians are more trusting than other people are. Part of that is because what Jeremy talked about this morning is how we can cut people off that are evil, that do wrong. We can cut them out of our lives. Problem is, when it comes to technology, we can't really cut that off. They can block somebody, but evil will still look and come for us. So the idea of tonight is not to scream about the evils of it. It's not for us to go delete all of our social media and throw our phones in the microwave when we get home. That's not what we're trying to do. But it's to be a little bit more aware, and then hopefully we can look at some reasonable, practical steps to mitigate some of those dangers and some of those risks. So that's the goal for tonight. If there is a theme for all of the tips that we talk about, it is that there are people out there who will take advantage of us. We are, like I said, we're generally more trusting than the rest of the world because we have close friends, we have close church family that is around us that we can trust. The world isn't like that. The world will take advantage of you. And the goal is to, perhaps before we tweet about something, before we click on a link from an email, before we are asked to give money to something that we think, could somebody be taking advantage of me, and how can I mitigate some of those dangers? This isn't a devotional, but this is coming from a Christian mindset and a Christian perspective. A couple verses to highlight here. Proverbs 22:3, a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. In Ephesians 5:15, see then that you walk circumstantially, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. I hesitate to put this next slide up there, and I went back and forth with whether I was going to. Does anybody not know who this is? Who the man is? This is Mark Zuckerberg. He's the CEO of Facebook and Metaverse. And this is a recent post he put on July 4th of his family. And this is his actual post that he put on. The reason I hesitated and went back and forth is I do not think this should be our family photos. I'm not saying that we should go home and change all of our family photos. That's not necessary for 99% of Americans, 99% of the world. But the overarching theme is he sees that there are people out in the world that would take advantage of him and his family because of his position, because of his high ranking within the organization, with his power in the world, his influence, his money and wealth. He knows that there are people that will take advantage of that. So he's cautious about that. Again, we shouldn't be doing this. Nobody should go home and put all this about their family members. But that caution that he's using, maybe we should use that a little bit. Okay. These are the main dangers we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about how people can take advantage of us financially, with thieves, what phishing is, scams, and then predators, specifically sexual predators at the end. Finish off with a good stuff. Thieves. Generally speaking, somebody breaking into your home is a rare occurrence. However, when they want to do that, they want to do it when you're not home. We should be careful about advertising on social media if we are home or we are. There are, I found an article on this, and I want to read I want to read part of this article. It said that there were 16.3 million hashtag airport uploads, 2.8 posts about passports, and 125,000 posts of actual boarding pass pictures. And this article went on to quote an ex-burglar, as he claims to be, says that we would keep tabs on those of our followers who were away from their home. We could find out where they were going and how long they would be there for, and we would plan our best way to make them. A simple way to reduce some of these vulnerabilities is be careful about what you post. If you're on vacation, wait a little bit. Wait till you get back and post that you're on vacation. If you are looking at your GPS, be careful about using GPS for your location, about checking in on locations, about a lot of the apps, whether it be X or Twitter or Instagram, you can actually put a GPS location for where you're at. I would recommend not doing this. If you're at home and you do that, you're advertising your address, which I wouldn't recommend. And if you're away, you're advertising that you're away from your house, which I also would not recommend. Generally speaking, the thieves, if they break into your house, they want nobody to be there. They want an easy victim. These simple tips will help lower that from being you an easy victim. Again, set your social media profiles to private. Decline friend requests you don't know. Watch that GPS. Watch about posting pictures. Obvious, but avoid posting expensive items as well. And if your mind is a little worried, they have doorbell cameras that are pretty cheap nowadays that can give you pretty good peace of mind. This is a way we can use technology to actually in our favor versus technology being used against us. Phishing. Phishing often happens in emails. They are practices of sending, most of the time, when somebody sends you an email, will have a link to something that they're trying to get you to log on to, or they're trying to get specific information from you. These are some indicators of that. A lot of times it'll have incorrect sender information, inappropriate context. We'll oftentimes see a sense of urgency in attachments, hyperlinks, poor grammar, and poor spelling. A lot of times they are coming from foreign countries. This is happening. They know it's much harder to prosecute somebody from a foreign country, so that's why you have poor grammar, poor spelling. John, we going live? Good now. This is a phishing email. So we stopped going live because I didn't want my work email all over there. This is phishing email that they've actually sent my work email address. So if you know who I work for, if they're bold enough to send it to my work email address, that they're not going to have any problems sending it to you as well. The first one, there was another one like this, the first one on your left there. It was very, it duped a lot of us in our office, to be honest with you. But you see this, I had a pressing issue pop up last night. You see this pressing issue is a common theme that will come up. There's always a link in there. This one was addressed to Maddie. I had another one that was come back. I tried to find it. It said, "Hey, Rick needs you to jump on a Teams meeting real quick." Rick just happens to be the name of my boss. They just happened to guess right. And that caught a lot of people in my office by surprise, and a lot of people clicked on it. So this is what it looks like. As you see, generally speaking, they're trying to get you to click on something. It's either going to be to import some type of virus or malware on Practical tips, slow down. All those people in my office, when they clicked on it, they knew right away, like, oh, why didn't I just take this half second to look at what was going? My boss is literally in the other room. Why didn't I just go say, hey, did you send this? This looks a little weird. Slow down. Remember those indicators, and again, if there's any question, just ask the person, hey, did you send me this? Because their account could have been hacked, even if it came from their account. I'm sure everybody in here knows somebody who's had some type of an account being hacked, whether it be social media, whether it be their emails. Scammers. A scam is simply a dishonest scheme, or dishonest fraud is what it is. There are various different scams and schemes that are used against us. A lot of them, pretty much all of them nowadays, have something to do with technology. The vast majority of these, they start out online and they're looking for some sort of financial means. Here's a common list of what you would see for the type of scams or type of schemes that go against you. Giveaways. A lot of times you may see, hey, you won this prize. And it always ends up, hey, in order to secure your reservation at this hotel, put a deposit of $50. In order to receive this, you have to upfront pay your taxes on this, so you don't have to worry about that on the back. There's always this something you have to pay for, this information you have to put in. Be aware of that. Grandparent scam is is another one it's often called. Generally, you're thinking you get a phone call, a text, or an email saying, hey, I am your grandson's best friend. He's in a bad car wreck. We need some money to get out of the situation. He got in some trouble. We need some money to bail him out of jail. Something that there will always be a sense of urgency. There will always be, hey, somebody that you love, that one of your loved ones are in trouble, and they will try to use that. Charity scams, you'll see this a lot of times after some sort of disaster, 9/11, hurricanes or something like that. People will try to use scams as a way to get money. They know that our heart is pricked for something. They will prey on our emotions. There are a lot of good charities out there. A few Google searches is worth looking at that versus giving your money to somebody who sends you a link about a charity. So do a little research before the charity. There's a lot of good ones out there. Investment schemes, if somebody sends you an investment scheme site, it's likely too good to be true. Romance scams. A lot of these online websites, specifically the ones that are actually designed for Christians, are actually being hit with this more than other ones. They know Christians are more giving, for one thing. They know we are more trusting. They know that we are, generally speaking, we put ourselves around people who generally are good people. And people, when they're on that site, and when they're on sites like that, they trust that somebody is a Christian, if it's on a Christian dating site. So these scams are actually very common on Christian-specific dating sites. If somebody, common things to look for is if they are out of the country. The use of a military member is very common. They'll say that they're in a base far away and you connected with them. That's why you can't meet in person, is because they're based, they're deployed. It's a very common thing that happens. Be aware of that. Never send money to anybody you've never met in person. There's just no reason for it. Never send money to anybody. Tax scams, you'll see people send emails, phone calls even, of, hey, you are back due on your taxes. In order to get out of this, you need to do this, or a legal action will come for you, whether it be a warrant out for your arrest or some sort of extended penalty on the taxes. The IRS will not contact you that way. They're not going to say you have 24 hours to pay your taxes. That's just not how it's done. A lot of times they'll spoof their phone calls to be a 202 number, a Washington D.C. number, to try to get you to be more convinced, more believable on that. Generally, if you're paying your taxes like pretty much all of us should be doing, it's nothing to worry about. But these are real common schemes that take place. A couple practical tips here. Yeah, never send money to someone you meet solely online. Don't discuss your financial situation with individuals. Never provide sensitive information like bank accounts. Be cautious of individuals decline friend requests, be caution of online sales that are too good to be true. Criminals will use these, perhaps you've seen them, these pop-up ads of, 90% off, buy this. And it's an ad that's way too good to be true. You'll click on there, you'll put your bank information because you want it, and then nothing ever comes. And then they have your banking information. Again, things to be aware of. Sexual predators. Now, when I was a kid, this is what you looked out for sexual predators. You saw a creepy van that was down by the park, somebody looking through binoculars, somebody say, "Hey kids, I've got candy." This was the talk I had when I was young, type of thing. Nowadays, this is your sexual predators. They don't have to go in a van by a park. They don't have to do that thing. If there's one statistic that should open your eyes, it's this one right here. 87% of sexual solicitations are made to youth in chat apps. I rarely say never and always, but there's never a reason why a child should have an unfiltered smartphone that is not watched, that there is no protection, that there is nothing. Even if they are in good intentions, something like that will come looking for them. The online gaming is a very popular thing now, whether it be through smartphones or whether it be through Xbox or PlayStation or something like this. And these predators will target games that are specifically targeting children. And they will have a group of them, and they will get together in this group. And these kids think they're in a group of children, but there's 2 or 3 of these sexual predators are in the same group. And they play the game together. They know each other. They talk together. They compete with each other to accomplish some sort of goal online. They gain their trust that way. And then they start talking about sexually explicit things. And these kids think that they're talking with other 12-year-olds, with other 11-year-olds. They think it's normal for that to be the normal conversation between 11 and 12-year-olds. It's not. And it's grooming. And it messes with children's minds. It messes with them. And it messes them up. Be cautious about that. At a bare minimum, if your child has a smartphone, I would say you should know every app and every app and what that app is used on their phone. I would have a conversation with your children that have smartphones. If they are old enough to have a smartphone, you're old enough to have these conversations about why it's important. Yeah, I'm not even going into the propensity of sin on some of these, and then the social and the mental health effects that can happen with some of this type of stuff. I'm not really qualified to talk on those things. This is strictly from a protecting your child standpoint. Again, some practical tips on this. Know what apps your children are using. This is key. If they have a smartphone, if they're old enough, if you've made that decision, go with them through their phone. What does this app do? I don't recognize this. Tell them have them tell you what they use it for. If they can't tell you what they use it for, there's probably not a reason they should have it on the app, on the phone. Go through that way. Parental controls. Technology, at the beginning, when social media, when gaming and all this stuff happened, when it first came out, technology well surpassed what parental controls could do. Now parental controls are actually pretty good. Most Samsung devices or Android or Apple have pretty good parental controls where you can control and you can see what your children are doing pretty good. There's a lot of apps that you can use and utilize as well. Look into that. It's worth the argument with your teenager to protect them. It is worth that fight. Again, this is there for protection. This is there for them. Here's a website that you can go to if you're worried about sex offenders in your area. Again, the same type of thing. There are a bunch of them out there. If you're worried about this thing, you can see a map, you can see where they live, their names, what they got convicted for, stuff like that. This is one of those ways where we can use technology to protect. There's several other ones like this, but these are one of those type of things. This last thing I'm going to talk about only applies to very, very few people, and that is the protection of foreign governments. What do I mean by that? This slide shows you this is a screenshot from Del Rey's missions page, and it shows you where we are. There's 18 different works, 6 different continents, 11 countries, 1 message. I like that 1 message. Just something about that. This shows you where we are in our government and in our system, in our country that we live in. We have the First Amendment that protects our speech, which includes our online speech. We can say pretty much what we want to say without the government fearing us, without the government going to stop us from doing so. We have the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which protects us from unwarranted searches. The government can't go through your social media, can't go through your phones without a search warrant. Other countries don't have that. It is completely within their authority to stop you at the border and detain you based off of the tweet. It is 100% within their authority. If you are going overseas, I would caution you about what you say online, specifically when it comes to foreign relations, specifically when it comes to whether you agree or disagree with this war, what your political views are. I would caution you on what you say. Specifically with Ukraine, we have a lot of works in Ukraine. Ukraine is clearly an ally of the United States, but there are clearly government officials of Russia and other countries that are not allies. They would love nothing more than to make an international incident out of it. They have no problem making an international incident and using Christians as that. No problem. Again, for 99% of the people, this probably isn't that much of a big deal, but if you are somebody who goes overseas, if you go overseas for your own personal benefit, I would be cautious about what you say. If you go overseas for mission work, it's great, that's awesome. Just be careful about what you do. This is what I had. This is what we're going to discuss tonight in regards to this. Again, the major overarching thing is these type of crimes, for the most part, are rare. They are not something that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about somebody doing these type of things, but there are specific steps that we can do to mitigate those risks that are there. Nobody needs to go home and throw their phones and start doing smoke signals or nothing like that. But just be aware of what it is before you click on a link, before you click on an attachment, before you post something on Facebook. Take 2 or 3 seconds to think, could somebody be trying to take advantage? Can somebody be trying to take advantage? That will fix a lot of problems. Could somebody be trying to? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bo. I'm a little discombobulated. I don't have my phone. And I don't know where it's at. You ever had that happen to you? You think, where's my phone? I've been sitting there for the last 5 minutes while Bo was talking about being careful with your smartphone. I wasn't smart enough to remember where my phone's at. I know where it's at. I just don't have it. We asked Bo and asked Napoleon to come in because we felt it's necessary at times in a general interest to know what's out there and what's affecting us. And it affects us in here. The social climate that we live in, there are predators out there. There are things that we need to be aware of that are around us. I have a degree in computer science. I was there when the first IBM computer came into my office. I was there to help set up the networks. I was there as the IT person for the state of Alabama, Mississippi, and the Panhandle of Florida for the Federal Aviation Administration. We've been using computers for years and years and years and years. We set up firewalls. We set up all this stuff. So I'm very cautious about my machine at my house. I'm very cautious. I have a firewall. I have a VPN, virtual private network, that I communicate over. I have all kinds of antivirus software loaded on my machine, but I'm still got one that got through the other day. I had just renewed my McAfee, my antivirus software license. 2 days later, I got an invoice from them for $400 and $75 or something. Please call this number or click this link to dispute. I clicked on the link. What a dummy. I knew as soon as I hit it, because I read up in the top, just like Bo talked about, there's spelling or grammatical errors in it. As soon as I hit it, I disconnected my internet. I just ripped it out of my router. And not that I'm that good. It's just that I thought I was better than that. So we have to be very careful of what we're doing. And with that being said, there are things that are out there that the phishing links, the links that look like legitimate websites that come up, the things that pop up on Facebook, the little quizzes that asked you about how many states have you been to, what's your dog's name, what's your grandparents' names. That's all phishing, because they can start tying that data together and figure out a lot of those questions. Like, you have to ask 3 questions for security. What's your mother's maiden name? Well, you just gave it away 3 weeks ago. What's your dog's name? Well, that's one of those other security questions. So those are the kind of things that we need to protect ourselves from. And I got to thinking about it, and there was a little song that we used to sing in Kids Sing. It's called "Oh, Be Careful, Little Eyes, What You See." Y'all remember that song? I'm firmly convinced that what we learned in kindergarten is what we need to get us through life. I've been married to a kindergarten teacher for half my adult life. My wife is a retired school teacher with over 20 years of teaching. 17 of that was in the kindergarten classroom. And the things that you learn in the kindergarten, it came out, says, most of us, what I really need to know, I learned in kindergarten. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. She was a kindergarten teacher, and I was a manager with the Federal Aviation Administration. We were the cream of the crop. These are the experts that keep the planes flying. We had the same problems. They called me a name. They chased each other down the hallway and threw paper at me. They wouldn't let me sit with them at lunch. And those were my problems. These were grown men that were supposed to know how to maintain the system. And they were kids. My wife had the same problem. She'd come in and say, they just didn't want to play together today. They didn't want to get along. On and on. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. All right? Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush the toilet. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Take a nap in the afternoon. When you go out in the world, watch out for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. We learned that in kindergarten. We learned this song, "Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see." Some of you may remember that song. We used to sing it when Jill and I helped in the nursery with the kids. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. When we were talking about the internet, you realize internet porn is one click away? Working for the government, we used to get our furniture from the Hooker Furniture Company. You see any problem with that? My boss accidentally said, hey, we need to buy some new furniture. So he typed in hooker.com. I said, before I could sell him no, guess what he saw? It's stuff you don't want to see. It scared him to death. That's how prevalent it is. Whitehouse.com is another site. That is not the whitehouse.gov. There are sites out there purposely done that way. Once they get on your computer, guess what? They leave little traces in themselves. Cookies. Everybody heard of cookies? One of the things that I did in the government was misuse of government equipment, misuse of laptops. I had to seize laptops from folks that misused them on the midnight shifts, going to sites that they shouldn't be going on to. Well, these guys thought they were smart enough to delete the information off of their computer before I got a hold of it. Well, unless you physically bang that laptop with a hammer, I can find what's on that machine. We had forensic tools that I could look at your hard drive. I could find where you've been. We fired folks for places that they had been on it. So, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Good philosophy. Oh, be careful what little ears you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. We don't realize what we're listening to sometimes until there's a child in the room and they, ooh, they said a potty word. The music that we listen to, the movies that we see. When I was a kid, I could remember that there wasn't a whole lot of bad language on television. There was the family hour set aside at night. The TV shows that had a little bit more mature theme did not come on until 8 or 9 o'clock. Saturday mornings were devoted to cartoons for the kids. It's not that way anymore. You have to be very careful about what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what's going on out there. Another little verse that comes out of this is, oh, be careful, little tongue, what you say. I was in the military for 4 years, and one of the things that we were taught was when you go home on leave, be careful about the words that you choose at home because they may not be appropriate because of what you've had where you've been around. And what they meant by that was some of the language that you heard in the military was not socially acceptable with your mom and daddy. I can remember saying one potty word, and I don't remember what happened after that. Mama said, we don't use words like that in our house. I said, yes, ma'am. But I didn't realize I had said it. The tongue, James talks about it, that it's such a small thing, but it can't be tamed. It's like a fire. Words that you can say, you can't take them back. Bo talked about slowing down before you click on a link or something. Does it look right? Does it look the same thing when you answer somebody? One of my jobs in the government was to answer congressional letters of investigation dealing with aircraft and the FAA. I tried to word things very carefully, very cautiously, and very purposely. And I do that in my adult life when I'm answering somebody back. And sometimes I can see people in their eyes like, come on, say something. Well, I'm still thinking in my head what I'm about to try to say. And that's what we need to do sometimes. Think before you say something, because once you say it, you can't take it back. Ephesians tells us, let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification. Be careful, little feet, where you go. This is one of the last ones I want to talk about. Your feet will take you places that you ever been somewhere and all of a sudden you realize, I don't need to be here? I can remember going on one of our church bus trips in Louisiana. And these are the senior threads. This is us. This is the old people. And we're getting ready to get off the bus, an unscheduled stop. And the guy goes in and he comes running back out and he says, this is not where we need to be. This is not where we need to be. It wasn't, I forgot exactly, I think it was a bar. We weren't supposed to be there. We were supposed to be down the road. And we get to the hotel and it says, welcome, Del Reyta Church of Christ. Happy hour starts at 5. So somebody knew we were coming. And we thought, well, we don't need to be here. But I say all that because of the things that are going on in the world around us. We just need to be careful. We need to be purposeful about what we're doing. There are temptations out there, but we're given the assurance that there's no temptation out there that's going to overtake you. We just need to be cautious. We just need to be careful about what we're doing and realize that there are people out there that want to take advantage of us because we are such loving, caring folks. We might be a little bit more susceptible, a little bit more pricked in our heart when we hear about things that are going on in the world around us that we want to be looking for. But let's be careful. There used to be a television show we used to watch years ago. I think it was called Hill Street Blues. And at the end of their squad meeting in the very beginning, the last thing that the police sergeant would say is that let's be careful out there. And that's the words that we want to leave you with tonight. Let's be careful out there. Let's have a word of prayer. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we are indeed thankful for the day and the many blessings of life. Father, we're thankful for the technology that we have around us and the things that we have that makes our life so much easier in today. We're thankful for the abilities that we have to think for ourselves and do for ourselves. Father, help us to be mindful of those that are around us that are less fortunate. Help us to be vigilant with the things that we say and do and the things that we have around us. Continue to help us to be discerning in those things that are good and those things that are bad. Help us to get your word out to folks. Help us to bring glory to your kingdom, but at the same time, help protect us and our families from those things that are harmful that are all around us. All these things we pray in Christ's name. Amen. Thank you all for your time tonight. We hope it's been beneficial.